G'day. Today we're doing a bit of work on an old Holden EH wagon, 1964, and he's got the 179 motor, 6. It's got the turbo Hydramatic 05 transmission in it. He's slipping in all gears, very bad in first to second, and quite often the shift feel can be adjusted with this rod. There's a pressure rod or a control rod there. You just want to make sure that it's not real sloppy. This one's not too bad. Looks like he's done a bit of work on the motor. Quite often the ratio will be out, so you've got to fiddle with the ratio. This one doesn't look like it's modified. Quite often those ratios have been fiddled with, and then it's a nightmare to get the ratio right to sync up the rod on the transmission with the accelerator or the carby anyway. But you can see there's a thread there for the adjustment, and you don't want to have it too tight or you can be doing damage on the little linkage inside the transmission. Good idea to always mark it and have a reference point so you can always go back to that. If you just start adjusting willy-nilly, quite often you'll get even more confused than you should. We're going to suck the oil out of the filler tube there with our vacuum pump. Now there's that linkage there, and it's actually pulling up that way. So you want to make sure that the tension when the accelerator is all the way to the floor is not actually pulling on that rod that way. Otherwise it can bend. There's a little arm inside on the valve body. You can end up bending it or bending this, and this one actually looks like it has been bent a little bit. If you have a look at the linkage, it's not coming straight, it's been twisted up a little bit. So once you damage the ratio or bend things, then it creates a new issue. And you can see it's also leaking a fair bit of oil there on the O-ring. The pan has been over tightened. The trick with these is to press the holes back on the pan so it doesn't actually cut into these cork rubber gaskets, and to put the cork rubber gasket on dry, otherwise it ends up weeping. While you've got it up, good idea to just check everything else. We've got the manual shaft linkages here. Sometimes you need to rebush them or put an extra washer or something like that on it. A little bit of a leak over here as well on the selector. Good idea to check your tail shaft, universals, check anything out of the ordinary while you've got it up. What they've done here on the exhaust. And these also have a drain plug. And there's that linkage there. We'll pop off the and there you go, you can see what happens there. It looks like this has been twisted a little bit. It needs to come back this way. And that's where the adjustment is. You can see there's a little bit of slop here, a little bit there, a little bit in there. And that's why they're so fiddly to adjust. You've got so many pivot points that all wear out and then give you issues with the fine adjustment. And you can see how worn that is as well, up on that linkage there. So that's going to play a little factor as well. Under the filter there, you'll see that there's a band adjustment. Now the band adjustment, we've got, what's that, 11/16, just loosen the lock nut. And on the Hydramatic 05 or the F85 3-speed transmission, the adjustment is 100 inch-pound and back off 2 1/4 turns. So you do it up to 100 inch-pound and then back it off 2 1/4 turns. And this is for the overrun band, or the band that's involved in the engine braking of the transmission. And then we back it out 2 1/4 turns. 1, 2 1/4. Don't forget to tighten the lock nut. On here we've got the threads gone right all the way as far as it can go. Yeah, press the accelerator down slowly. You want to just adjust this because some people put mats and different height carpet and whatever on the accelerator. Accelerator's all the way to the floor. And now we can have a look at this linkage here. And there's a little bit more there. That little bit there might be, let it go. Might be just that little bit that's worn on that rod. You can probably weld it up and just grind it round again. And also this linkage here is a little bit worn as well. Nearly right through. We need to fix that. Another thing you probably could do is just bend this back a little bit as well. It looks like it's got a slight little twist in it, and there's slop everywhere. You want to have the adjustment for it, a little bit of thread either side of where it should be, so you can either tighten it up or as it wears out, or adjust it, back it off. Hope that makes sense. So just as a reference, here we've got our transmission manual. And you can see you've got your detent valve and your throttle valve. So the detent one's for the kickdown and the throttle valve's for the pressure in the transmission. And there's another diagram there of it. Might be able to see it a little bit better. There's the other part of the valve body. Now on those transmissions, the Taurus, or the torque converter, actually controls the 1-2 shift. So you've got a fluid coupling operating the 1-2 shift on it. And you'll find that the torque converter is actually, or the Taurus is inside the transmission, not on the front like most of the common modern day ones are. And there's that information there. You can see first speed, power from the engine is mechanically transmitted through the flywheel and the damper on the flywheel, and the Taurus cover, and drives through the Taurus member. So the power is actually, first to second, is hydraulically activated through that Taurus. Where are we? Anyway, Pretty priceless, some of these old books. Thanks to the old man, he's kept them in good nick. A little bit more information on the throttle valve pressure. And the fluid coupling, or the fluid coupling through the torus, or the torque converter like we call them these days. Diagnosis and testing. Low oil pressure causes. High oil pressure, no drive. Missing all shifts. Drive second. Driving first and third only. And then moving on. What we got? Driving first and second only, which is the governor valve sticking. Driving third only. Driving neutral. Reverse or forward. No reverse. And what we've got, slipping in all ranges. And this one, slipping first second, which is the throttle valve linkage adjusted too long. We're out of thread on there, and those linkages are worn. So if we fix the linkages, we might be able to adjust it a little bit more, but the transmission is basically cactus anyway. Where are we? Throttle valve adjustment. Back in here. And we still have a few damper plates for these. This one's pretty well buggered. The springs are all collapsed. The old man used to recondition them. Put a new little, in here on the spline area, there's a little plate with little brake shoes in there. And you've got these springs. So if you do need any of these, you can, if you're in Australia, you can send us your old one and we can recondition it for you. The link is in the description. You can contact us through our, or via our Facebook link. Now in the old days they didn't have magnets, but we always like to add a magnet to every transmission pan. And you can see these pan bolts, they've tightened the buggery out of them, and they're actually pushed up a little bit. As the pan gasket's leaking, people tend to tighten them up a bit more, and what's happening is that because the hole's sort of pushing up, it's actually cutting the gasket even more. Another thing we found, this little jigger here, and that's actually the stopper on the dipstick. It's on the other side of that little rubber tube that's on the dipstick. So whether it's off an old one or off this one, I'm not sure. The O-ring for the filter pickups in there. You want to make sure that that O-ring is sealing really well on the filter, or because of the height, you've got probably, I don't know, about that much height there. It can suck a bit of air and give you funny shifts, just like if the transmission's over or under full. If the transmission's over full, what happens, the oil hits the spinning parts and aerates the oil. You don't want to have air in a hydraulic system. I don't think that these are different on these. And we're putting these Duraprene gaskets on as well. Now another reason why the pan gaskets leak on these is because the extension housing, if you can see it there, there's a little, where it joins, they haven't aligned it properly. This one is sticking down a bit, a little bit hard to see, If you run your finger along it, you can feel that there's a step there. And on the opposite side, it's the other way. This is up higher than that. So what you can do is just put a little bead of Celastic there and there when you're doing it, or ideally when you're doing the transmission, is to make sure that that's aligned up properly when you bolt the extension housing back on. Just pressing those holes back down. And it's looking like this one's going to be in for a rebuild. So we're not going to finish the servicing video. Anyway, I hope that information helps. There's something in there that may help you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave any comments or suggestions in the section below. And don't forget to throw us a beer if any of this information does help. Much appreciated, keeps us motivated to make more videos. Link is in the description. And stay tuned for the rebuild video on the Hydramatic 05, also known as the F85. Thank you for watching.